for any competitive examinations. We can expect at least 2 questions from this topic. We study the British government acts which were enacted during the company rule, during the crown rule in this category, in this topic. Many acts were enacted during the company rule, during the crown rule. Of all these, the most important act is the Government of India Act 1935. The Government of India Act 1935. It was a historical milestone, an Indian political system which had a great impact in the making of Indian Constitution. Many acts were enacted by the British Parliament from 1773 to 1947, but this act is the lengthiest act ever enacted by the British Parliament. It consisting of 321 articles, 10 schedules and 14 parts. The Government of India Act 1935 consisting of 321 articles, 10 schedules and 14 parts. Hence, it is known as the lengthiest act enacted by the British Parliament. And it was the act which promised Indians a responsible government. Previously, 1858 Government of India Act also promised Indians a responsible governance. But this is the second milestone act which promised and which paved a way to the complete federal system. More than 70% of items of this act were directly derived from this act and incorporated in the Indian original constitution. Many things, many concepts were derived from this act or directly inserted in the Indian constitution. So that this act, 1935 Government of India Act, is popularly known as the blueprint of Indian constitution, the main source of Indian constitution, the Xerox copy of Indian constitution. Very, very important points. Blueprint of Indian constitution, Xerox copy of Indian constitution, main source of Indian constitution. Why? Because more than 70% of items are directly taken from this act. That's why it has its own importance in the making of our Indian constitution. Okay, coming to the point, what are the salient features of this act? The salient features of this act are: this act provided for the establishment of All India Federation. Provided for the establishment of All India Federation. Very, very important point. This act provided for the establishment of All India Federation consisting of, by the time of 1935, there are 3 types of territories in India: provinces, princely states and chief commissionerate territories. There are 3 types of territories in India in 1935. Those are provinces. There were 11 provinces. Princely states and chief commissionerate territories. 3 types of territories are there. By merging all these 3 types of territories, this act provided to the establishment of All India Federation. There were 6 chief commissionerate areas, there were 11 provinces and some princely states. You know, province is nothing but a state which is administrated by the governor with the help of Council of Ministers. There were 11 provinces at the time of 1935 Act. Princely states are an annexed territory which is under the control of British Empire and ruled by the native Indians, native Zamindars, native kings. Princely states, nearly there are 560 plus princely states were there at the time of this act. Chief commissionerates means like that union territories, which is directly governed by a specific officer. There were 11 provinces, 6 chief commissionerates and 560 plus princely states. By matching all these, by bringing together all these 3 types of territories, this act provided the establishment of All India Federation. It paved the way to the federation system. It clearly shaped the Indian federation system and introduced a perfect shape and definition to the Indian federation system. This is the first feature of this act. Second one is, this act introduced bicameralism at state level, introduced diarchy system at central level. These 2 things are very, very important. Introduced bicameralism at state level, introduced diarchy system at central level. These 2 subjects were first introduced by 1919 Montague-Chelmsford Acts, but at various level. In 1919 Act, bicameralism was adopted at central level, but by the 1935 Act, bicameralism was introduced in 6 states out of 11: Bengal, Bombay, Bihar, Madras, like that. So there are 11 provinces in India. So of these 11 provinces, in 6 states, bicameralism was introduced. You know bicameralism? A legislature system consisting of 2 houses, having upper house and lower house, is known as bicameralism. The bicameralism concept is introduced by 1919 Act at central level, but by this Act, the same bicameralism was introduced at 6 states. At 6 states out of 11. Those were Bengal, Bihar, Bombay, United Provinces, Assam, Madras. So out of 11 provinces, in 6 provinces the bicameralism was introduced. Bengal, Bihar, Bombay, United Provinces, Assam and Madras. Next, coming to the diarchy. Diarchy means the subjects which were divided into transferred and reserved items is referred as diarchy. Diarchy system is also introduced by 1919 Act at state level, but at the time of 1935, the same diarchy system was abolished at state level but introduced at central level. Diarchy system was introduced at central level. Diarchy means dual government. Diarchy is a Greek word which is derived from a Greek term diarchy, means dual government. Means dividing the subjects into 2 categories: reserved items and transferred items. So this diarchy system was introduced at a central level. This is the second important feature of this act. Next, coming to the third one, 1935 Government of India Act was provided for the establishment of RBI, Reserve Bank of India. It provided the establishment of Reserve Bank of India, which acts as the central bank of India. This is one more feature of this act. And next one, one more important silent feature of this act is it divides the subject matters of administration. It distributed the powers of central government and state government into 3 lists. Distribution of powers was divided into 3 lists. One, federal list consisting of 59 items. Second, provincial list is nothing but state list. It consisting of 54 items. And concurrent list consisting of 36 items. So the subject items were classified into 3 categories: federal list, provincial list and concurrent list. Federal list consisting of 59 items means currency, banking, foreign affairs, defense. Such things comes under federal system. Federal list. These 59 items can be administered and enacted by the central government only. The state government has no right in these matters. Provincial list means the sub matters which were completely reserved to the state governments only. Those are 54 items: health, public health, police. Agriculture, lands, these things are. Concurrent list means the matters both central government and state government have equal rights It is concrete list consisting of 36 items. The third one is the items which were not comes under these three categories are residuary powers. These residuary powers are vested in the name of Viceroy. Residuary powers were vested in the name of Viceroy. Viceroy is nothing but a part of central government. So both federal list and the residuary list are vested in the central government. Provincial list is vested in state government, and concurrent list is vested in both in central and state level. So the distributing of powers is nothing but federal system. That's why the Government of India Act shaped a new way to the federal system of India. This is an important feature of this act. And one more, this one is, this act provided for the establishment of Federal Public Service Commission and Provincial or State Public Service Commission. It provided establishment of public service commissions at central level and state level. Federal Public Service Commission and Provincial Public Service Commission. Now it is UPSC, it is SPS, State Public Service Commission, Union Public Service Commission. So public service commissions at state level and central level also were established by 1935 Act. And one more thing is, this 1935 Government of India Act was provided for the establishment of federal court. For the establishment of federal court. Federal court. This federal court consisting of one Chief Justice and 6 other judges. The first Chief Justice of federal court was Maris Guire. This federal court has the jurisdiction all over India. The original jurisdiction of this federal court was the disputes arising between state and central government. Before, there was a court established in 1774, Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court, which was established in 1774 at Port William in Calcutta, has only the jurisdiction over Calcutta only. But this federal court has its jurisdiction all over India. The original jurisdiction of this court was to find the permanent solutions to the disputes arising between state and central list. So this is one of the important point provided for the establishment of federal court. The first Chief Justice of federal court was Maris Guire. Okay, and one more point is, this 1935 Government of India Act extended the franchise to the 10% of the population of India. Extended franchise. Franchise means right to vote to the 10% of Indian population. 10% of Indian population, and also it provided the right to vote to the women. And it continued. And one more thing is, it continued the separate electorates to the depressed class people, means scheduled castes and scheduled tribes and women. By Act of 1935, two new provinces were formed. It was Orissa and Sindh. These two provinces were newly formed by this Act of 1935 Government of Act. As per the date which it came into existence, actually the 1935 Government of India Act came into existence in 1937. Actually it was adopted in 1935, but actually it came into force in 1937. By the date it was adopted, there were 11 provinces in India. But by this Act, two more new provinces were formed. Those are Orissa province and Sindh province. And one more concept of this Act is, at central level, already bicameralism was introduced by 1919 Act. Already we know. The number of legislature members are also increased. The upper house Council of States members increased to 60. The lower house Central Legislative Assembly, the number of members were increased to 145. But the same houses, both upper house and lower house, the members of upper house was increased to the 260 members. The lower house members was increased to 365 members. 375 members. Previously, here, Central Legislative Council, Central Legislative Assembly, these are the upper house and lower houses as per 1919 Act. Central Legislative Council previously it consisting of 60 members, now the number is increased to 260. And lower house is Central Legislative Assembly, previously it consisting of 145 members, now it increased to 375 members. So the number of both upper house and lower house at central level was increased. Upper house members were increased to 60 to 260, lower house members were increased to 145 to 365. These are the main salient features of 1935 Government of India Act. Actually, this Act came into existence in 1937 April. Even though the Reserve Bank of India also came into existence from 1937. So as per this Act, in 1937 the general elections were held. Whatever the major concept adopted by this Indian Constitution, the major concept which was enacted by this Act was framing of All India Federation was not came into existence because majority of princely states not agreed to join the All India Federation system. So that the major concept of All India Federation, establishment of All India Federation was not came into existence. These are the major salient features of 1935 Government of India Act. Indian Independence Act 1947. This is the last act enacted by the British government during their period. The salient features of the Indian Independence Act 1947 are, before going into the details, let us discuss the background of this act. On 1947 February 20, then the Prime Minister of Britain, Clement Attlee, announced that India would get the freedom by June 30, 1948. The Second World War came to an end in 1945. Then the general elections were held in Britain. The Labour Party came to power, and Clement Attlee took the charge as the Prime Minister of Britain. Then he announced that India was going to get freedom by June 30, 1948. But this announcement was rejected by Muslim League, which is demanding the partition of India and which is demanding the formation of separate Pakistan. So as a result of rejecting this announcement of Clement Attlee by Muslim League party, the announcement was not came into real. Then the Governor General of India, Lord Mountbatten, then the Governor General of India, Lord Mountbatten, the last British Governor General of India, Lord Mountbatten, announced one more declaration on what we call it is Mountbatten Plan. He declared a Mountbatten Plan, which is also referred as Dicky Bird Plan. As per this Mountbatten Plan, India was divided into two dominions, and the two newly forming dominions are also given the permission to form constituent assemblies and give the freedom to make their respective constitutions. So as per the Mountbatten Plan, which was announced on June 3rd, 1947, the Indian Independence Bill was introduced in Britain Parliament. Based on this Mountbatten Plan, Indian Independence Bill 1947 was introduced in Britain Parliament on July 4th, 1947. When Mountbatten was announced his plan, based on that Dicky Bird Plan, the Indian Independence Bill 1947 was introduced in Britain Parliament on July 4th, 1947. And it was approved by the Britain Parliament on July 15th, 1947. And then the King of Britain, King George VI, gave his assent to the bill on July 18th, 1947. And finally it came into force from August 14th midnight 1947. Dates are very, very important. Based on Mountbatten Plan, the Indian Independence Act Bill 1947 was introduced in Britain Parliament on July 4th, 1947. It was approved by the Britain Parliament on July 15th, 1947, and it was passed by then the King of Britain, King George VI, on July 18th, 1947, and it was finally came into force from the midnight of August 14th, 1947. This is the historical background of Indian Independence Act 1947. What are the salient features of Indian Independence Act 1947? Salient features. This is the last act enacted by the British government in India. Last act that was enacted by the Britain government. And by this act, British rule was ended in India. India was divided on the grounds of religion, and two new dominion states were formed. They are India and Pakistan. The new countries, the new dominions, India and Pakistan, came into existence. The office of Viceroy came to an end, and it provided the establishment of individual Governor Generals to each dominion states. It ended the office of Viceroy, British Viceroy, and also it provided for the establishment of Governor Generals or Viceroys to each dominion. C. Rajagopalachari was appointed as the first Indian Viceroy to the Indian Dominion. Muhammad Ali Jinnah was appointed as the Viceroy, the Pakistan Viceroy of the Pakistan Dominion. So British Viceroy system only ended, but at the same time, to both Pakistan and Indian Dominion states, two individual Viceroy offices, Viceroy posts are created. For India, C. Rajagopalachari took the charge of Indian Governor General. Muhammad Ali Jinnah took the charge as the Governor General of Pakistan. And C. Rajagopalachari is the first and last Indian Governor General. Lord Mountbatten was the last British Governor General, and C. Rajagopalachari was the first and last Governor General of India. So it abolished the office of Viceroy, and it provided the establishment of individual Governor Generals to Pakistan and India. And this act provided for the establishment of constituent assemblies to each dominion. So the main demand of India before independence is setting up of a constituent assembly to make constitution. So this Indian Independence Act empowered the Indian government to set up a constituent assembly, and also for the Pakistan. So on the grounds of this act, constituent assemblies were set up for both India and Pakistan. And this act ended the royal titles of Britain in India. So the royal titles of His Majesty or Her Majesty came to an end in India and Pakistan. So completely the act divided India into two separate dominions by creating two individual Governor General posts to the Pakistan and India. It ended the British monopoly system in India also. This act ended the British paramountcy in India, and it provided a way to make individual constitutions to the both Indian and Pakistan dominions. And one more important feature of this act is it given the freedom to the princely states either to join in Indian Union or to join in Pakistan. By the time of act was commencement, 565 princely states are there. This act gave the freedom to the princely states either to join in Indian territory or to join in Pakistan. Majority of princely states joined in Indian Union except Jammu Kashmir, Hyderabad and Junagadh. After conducting referendum, Junagadh joined Indian Union. With an agreement which was held in 1952, Pakistan merged with India, and with Operation Polo by the Polish action or military action, Hyderabad princely state has also joined in India in 1948 September. So on the day of commencement of this act, India consisting of 14 states and 6 chief commissionerates. Now India has 28 states and 8 union territories. So this is the last act enacted by the British government which ended the British rule and which divided India into 2 dominion states and which empowered 2 dominion states. To make constituent assemblies and to make constitutions. And this act provided freedom to the princely states either to join in India or join in Pakistan. It ended viceroy system, it ended secretary of state system, and it ended the titles of Britain, and it ended the monarchy over India. This is the last act of Britain enacted in India during their period.
In previous videos, we discussed in detail about the Council Acts and the Government of India Acts from 1858 to 1947. Here we are presenting a table of the summary of the Council and Government of India Acts. Already I told you this type of tables are very useful to you to remember the most expected and important concepts in the exam point of view. Already we made the first table about the gist of the Charter Acts. This is the second table about the summary of Council Acts and Government of India Acts. Yeah, there are 6 acts which were enacted during the Crown rule from 1858 to 1947. They are Government of India Act 1858, Council Act 1861, Council Act 1892, Marley-Minto Reforms or Government of India Act 1909, Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms 1919 or Government of India Act 1919, and Government of India Act 1935 and Indian Independence Act 1947. Let us see what are the most important key concepts of each
Act. Coming to the first one, Government of India Act in 1858. This was the first act which was enacted after the Crown rule started in India. The major concepts of this act are: it abolished the company rule, it abolished the board of control and court of directors, it abolished the dual government. It designated the Governor General of India, previously Governor General of India, as Viceroy. Lord Canning was the first Viceroy of India, and it created an office of Secretary of States. Lord Stanley was the first Secretary of States. These 5 points are very, very important. Abolished company rule, abolished dual government, designated Governor General of India as Viceroy or Governor General, and creation of a new post, what we call it is a Secretary of States. Lord Stanley was the first Secretary of States. Lord Canning was the first Viceroy. Okay. Coming to the next one, Council Act 1861. By this act, Raja of Benares, Raja of Patiala, and Dinakar Rao, these 3 members were nominated to the Central Legislative Council as non-official members. So that the Indians were first nominated to the council. That's why it is called as Council Act 1861. The major key points of this act are: it provided the establishment of new legislative councils to Bengal, Punjab, and North-West provinces. It means it restored the legislative powers of Madras and Bombay and also created new state legislatures to the Bengal, Punjab, and North-West provinces, because it paved the way to the decentralization in legislature. And one more thing is, it introduced the portfolio system. Portfolio system means allocating a specific ministry to the ministers, and it introduced a budget system also. Okay, and also as per Lord Macaulay Committee, Civil Procedure Code, Indian Penal Code, and Criminal Procedure Code were also adopted in 1858, 1860, and 1861 respectively. These are the important concepts. Coming to the next one, Council Act 1892. By this act also, 6 Indian members were nominated to the Central Legislative Council. Some of them are Dadabhai Naoroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Firoz Shah Mehta, Surendra Banerjee, Bill Gramy, such persons. It increased the functions of Central Legislative Council to discuss on budget, and also it empowered the Central Legislative Council members to question on executive activities. And also it empowered the Viceroy to nominate Indian personalities on the recommendations of state legislative councils or state different types of boards, municipalities, district boards, and such like that. Coming to the next one, Marley Mentor Reforms or Government of India Act 1909. It has its own importance in the history because it created it created the first time the representation of communal electorates, or it introduced communal representation in India. First time Lord Minto was introduced communal electorates to the Muslims. This is a very important point. That's why Lord Minto is popularly known as the father of communal electorates in India. And also, 1909 Act empowered Indians to join in Viceroy's Executive Council. Satyendra Prasad Sinha was the first Indian member who joined in Viceroy's Executive Council as a law member, which is very, very important. Coming to the next one, Montagu Chelmsford Reforms or Government of India Act 1919. By this act, many reforms took place in the Indian political system. Bicameralism was first time introduced at central level. Central Legislative Council divided into 2 houses, upper house and lower house. Upper house is known as Council of States, whereas lower house known as the Central Legislative Assembly. And diarchy system was introduced at the provincial level or state level. Diarchy means dual government, means dividing the subject matters into 2 categories, reserved and transferred. Reserved items were administered by the governor with the help of Executive Council, and transferred items were administered by the governor with the help of Council of Ministers. And it created an office of High Commissioner in London. By 1919 Act, it created an office of High Commissioner in England, and also it continued the creation of separate electorates to the specific communities in India. It created separate electorates to the Sikhs, Christians, Anglo-Indians, and Europeans. What already introduced in 1909, it continued to provide separate electorates to the Christians, to the Anglo-Indians, to the Europeans, and to Sikhs. Coming to the next one, Government of India Act 1935. It is the second milestone in Indian history which promised a responsible governance to the Indian people. It is the lengthiest act enacted by the British Parliament, consisting of 321 articles, 10 schedules, and 14 parts. Actually, it was came into existence in 1937 April. So, more than 70% of items are derived from this act and inserted in the Indian Constitution. That's why this 1935 Government of India Act is known as the blueprint and the Xerox copy of the Indian Constitution. The major key concepts of this act are: it provided for the establishment of Reserve Bank of India as the Central Bank of India, and it established the Federal Court, and it established the Federal Public Service Commission and the Provincial Public Service Commission. And also, bicameralism was introduced at provincial level, especially in 6 states: Bombay, Bengal, Bihar, Madras, Assam, and Punjab. And diarchy was introduced at central level. At a central level means dividing the subject matters into transferred and reserved items. And 1935 Act distributed the powers between the state and center in 3 lists, that is federal list consisting of 59 items, provincial list consisting of 54 members, concurrent list consisting of 36 items, and the residuary powers were vested in the name of Viceroy. It formed Orissa and Sindh new provinces, and it extended 10% of branches on the base. It extended 10% of branches of the population, and separate electorates were declared to the separate communities to the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and women. And Burma was separated from India by the 1935 Act. And coming to the last one, Indian Independence Act, the major important concepts are: India was divided into 2 independent dominions, and the titles of His Majesty or Her Majesty came to an end. India and Pakistan are announced as sovereign states. Separate constituent assemblies were formed to the 2 dominions. And the bill was introduced in the Britain Parliament on July 4th, and it was passed by the Parliament on July 15th, and it was ascended by the His Majesty on July 18th, and it was came into existence on 1947, August 14th, midnight. So, these are the major key concepts. These are the summary of Council or Government of India Acts. So remember, whatever I have written on the board are most expected points in exam point of view. So it is the complete lesson of Government of India Acts which were inspired our leaders to make our Indian Constitution.